Some people have incredibly fine-tuned antennas that pick up tons and tons and tons of information. And other people are blunt instruments. They don't pick up much at all. Maybe you have a partner with an incredibly sensitive antenna. They can pick stuff up 3 blocks over, right? Or maybe not. Maybe you're often around people who aren't feeling a thing. They aren't picking up much of anything. They're like, "What's for dinner? Who's playing in the game tonight? I probably should get my car washed," right? That's about where their level of receptivity. It's like a very, very weak radio station. And other people are just, some people can go to a party and the people in the room and the histories of those people and the angst and the rivalries and the bitterness and the jealousy and the joys and sorrows and pains, they walk into a room and it's like they're being bombarded with stimulus. And you're like, "That was a pretty good party. I think I'm gonna go talk to Phil," right? But the person you're with is like, whoa. If you are easily overwhelmed, if you interact with people and you can viscerally feel their anxieties, their sadness, if the world feels heavier to you than it does to other people, if you can be with somebody and you are easily thrown off by their dramas, yeah, you may just have an incredibly powerful antenna. Yeah. Lots of people have very powerful antennas, and they have always picked up a world within this world. They have always picked up so much color and shape and data. And maybe you have an incredibly powerful antenna, and you were raised by people who didn't know what to do with you. Maybe you didn't know what to do with you. Are you with me on this? Yeah. I mean, there's the tired old categories of introverts and extroverts, and yet sometimes these categories, they exist for a reason. In some ways, they're very helpful. Sometimes they're overused, but sometimes they're incredibly helpful. Lots of extroverts are just flying through life, missing so much information because their antenna just isn't picking up much. And lots of people who would traditionally be called introverts, they are picking up a whole world of things. Yeah. Some people were, their antenna was tuned to spirit. They woke up very early. Yeah, because your antenna can pick up movements of spirit, both broad and incredibly subtle, which is very different from religion. Some people are wide awake. Their antenna has been picking up spirit, the divine, the whole time. And they actually were in religious environments that didn't have much of antenna and didn't know what to do with people who are already tuned in. Anybody know what I'm talking about? You saw the playing field from way early on. And then the people who claim to be the ones who are in charge of determining the nature of the playing field, aka religion, didn't seem to have much of an antenna at all. Yeah, because these things are very, very different. Some people, man, they have been picking things up. They know. Some people don't need the news to know what's happening. Are you with me on this? They don't need to follow the news to know what the body that we are all a part of, because who we are and what we're doing here, we're all part of a body. Some people don't need to be reading up on the information in the news because they felt it and sensed it and heard it and knew it long before it became a headline. Yeah. Some people, I mean, I have friends who can, it's like their antenna, they can feel the world. And that's not like dramatic or exaggerated. They can just giant shifts, sadness, anxiety, joy. Their antenna, yeah. I know people who post 9/11 had such profound senses of what was happening in the air everywhere. Lots of people who have very, very strong antennas talk about 9/11. They talk about the financial collapse in 2008. They can talk about viscerally feeling global events in ways, and can talk about shape, color, texture, detail. Yeah, I'm sure you have. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's friends. Now, here's why it's important to talk about this. The modern world that you and I are the children of tended to discount a wide range of non-empirical experiences, which is why me talking about the antenna sounds a little like, whoa, I don't know. Right, exactly. Because the suspicion that was bred by the reductionist materialism of the past, let's call it 300 or 400 years, was unless you can show us the data, unless you can show us the evidence, it so valued a particular way of knowing. And that particular way of knowing gave us hospitals and airports and iPhones. This particular scientific, empirical, evidence-based way of knowing things has been so beneficial for humanity that it's almost like a way of knowing that was so incredibly productive that it drowned out other ways of knowing, and in many cases flatly dismissed those ways of knowing. So perhaps you are somebody with an incredibly powerful, fine-tuned antenna, but you were raised in a world that was like, what's the research on that? Show me the studies. Show me the data. And you're just like, you know what you know. It doesn't work like that. There are lots of ways that we know things. Now, for thousands of years, generally the collective, the tribe, the group created space for these people, the people who could sense what was coming before it arrived, the people who could read the times almost before the events even happened. For thousands of years, the tribe made room for these people. Yeah, you didn't discount them. You didn't think they were crazy. You saw them as necessary for the survival and, more importantly, the thriving of the group. So that old lady at the hut at the end of the village who just knows what she knows, you come to her and you sit down and she tells you things about yourself. How does she know this? This wasn't considered crazy, or this wasn't considered like someone who's just sort of lost the plot. This was like, yeah, some people have powerful antennas. They're picking up relational truths. They're picking up things in the earth. They're picking up things in the cosmos. They're able to read the moment in ways, I don't know how they do it. This is just what they do. Yeah, so in many ways, we are living in a system that was so phenomenally successful based on a particular way of knowing that it almost elbowed out these other ways of knowing. By the way, this has huge implications for kids. You may have been a kid, or you may have a kid who has an incredibly powerful antenna. And with that kid, sometimes the answer is not to tell the kid to just be tougher. Sometimes the kid is actually telling you, I need to be removed from this situation. I need to be protected from this situation. Maybe the kid is being overloaded because the kid has superpowers. You know how to do. You know, at some point we should do a whole episode on superpowers because it's a ridiculous word to use, and yet I really like it. But yeah, there's a thing you know how to do. There's a thing that you've always known how to do. There's the thing that when you're doing that, there's a peace, there's a harmony, there's a flow to it. And generally, I haven't fully developed my theory of superpowers, but let's go with this. Generally, your superpower has an underbelly. It has a vulnerability. So if you're the person who just has lots and lots and lots of ideas, you're just a fantastically creative person, the underbelly will be that you never actually get anything done because your ideas are so fantastic in your head, but actually executing an idea requires you die to all that fantasy and you actually do something and let it be whatever it's going to be. That's what I mean. Or perhaps your superpower is you can bring order to any situation. You are this person. We drop you into any situation. Or perhaps your superpower is you can bring order to any situation. You are this person. We drop you into any situation, and you can bring order and clarity. And good God, we're so grateful for that. But that superpower has a difficult time with the inherent messy unpredictability of life. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? So, but some kids, man, that kid, all their knobs are turned up. That kid, their radio station is picking up so much. And that kid needs space. Sometimes that kid needs quiet. Sometimes you send that kid to the cacophony of middle school, and then you're like, well, life is tough. You just need to adjust. Just need to be tough. Just, you take the nut. But sometimes, no, it's actually the environment. It's like if you had 21 people with megaphones shouting in your ears. Yeah, you would say, get me out of this situation. There's nothing that's shaping me in good ways about this. Situation is just killing me. Sometimes the situation is really it's like literally crushing a kid's spirit. Why? No, it's not because the kid is weak. It's not because the kid somehow can't hack it. It's because that kid has one super powerful antenna. Yeah, by the way, the artists, the innovators, the healers, the great educators generally have really powerful antennas. Oftentimes, even the entrepreneurs, they picked up something other people weren't picking up. Yeah, if your antenna is tuned to what's happening, to what's in the air, to what's really flowing, the flip side is that a lot of situations will be completely insane. By the way, if you have at all an antenna that's turned on commercials on television, or you're in some building, some space, and they're playing a radio and there are commercials can literally make you insane, can psychically just be absolutely devastating. And the more you're aware of your antenna, the more lots of things, you just can't do them. It's not because you don't have a spine. It's not because you don't have resilience or endurance or all that. It's because you're picking up what it actually is. And why would you ever let that in? No, yeah, you got to protect yourself from that. We'll get to that in a second. I'm thinking specifically of those of you who have always picked up an extraordinary amount and didn't know what it was. My hope is that this image of an antenna, you went to a party and one conversation in, you were exhausted and you were like, get me out of this place. Yeah, it's because it's not because you're not social. It's not because you have some sort of problem with human beings. It's because you were talking to that person and their sadness, their repression, their angst, their bitterness, their jealousy. It was like it was fire hosing you. It was like it was cloaking you. It was like it was wrapping yourself. Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's what that was.